You now have seen this concept illustrated in a business context and a dating system. As a third example, the next video will show you input, transformation, and output in non-living systems. While the focus of our class will be on living systems, particularly humans engaged in conversations, it is useful to see systems concepts enacted in various environments. Let's watch the video.
When you're thinking about systems, you should always define the system that you're going to investigate. In this video, what we're going to look at is how do things move into a system? We call those inputs. How do things move out of a system? We call those outputs. And then what are all the processes involved in them moving into and out of the system? The object that represents a system is always this gray container. Up to this point, we've said this is the boundary of the system. In this video, we're really going to talk about how things can move into a system, then what might happen to those components into the system, and then what might come out of the system. We call those outputs. And so we're going to dig specifically into the inputs, outputs. By the time you've watched this video, you should be able to identify inputs, outputs, and processes in something like a steam kettle, or even in a complex process like photosynthesis. But I'm going to start by showing you my thinking around a music reading music box. So let me set that up. And then you'll work on a different one, a different system with me together. And so the first thing we should always define is the system. So in this case, the system we're going to investigate is the music reading music box. This has some music. The music is just paper with holes punched out of the song Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So let's see what this sounds like. All right, so the paper is a part of the system. Also on the inside of it, you can see there's some gears and there's a comb that's reading the music as it goes through. So that's going to be the system that we're going to dig into. The next thing we'll do is we will try to identify what are the inputs into the system, what's coming into the system, what are the processes within the system, and then what are going to be the outputs out of the system. So we'll use this as an example. The first thing that I always do when I'm looking at any kind of a system like this is I think about what's going in and then what's coming out. So let me show you what I think are the inputs and the outputs. So what I've identified are the inputs into the system and the outputs. You'll notice that I'm using different color, and the reason why is we're using a different concept. In my model, anything that's black is going to be matter. Matter, remember, is just things in the universe, so paper is an example of a thing. Red will represent energy, which another concept that I'll use, and remember, energy is makes things change, and so that's the color that I'm using. So the inputs would be the paper going in, and there's also the input of energy. When I spin this crank, I'm adding motion energy into the system. What comes out is going to be the paper. We get motion of the paper out, and then we get some sound. Next thing I should do is just think about what's happening within the system, and I should figure out what's important matter and what's important energy on the inside of the system. So the big parts inside the system that I think are important are the paper going through the music box and coming out. That's important. We also have the gears on the inside that are moving everything. And then finally we have the reader. The reader is decoding what's in the paper itself. So now that we've got inputs, outputs, and then the components on the inside, let me draw in what I think are all the interactions that take place from inside to outside. Okay, so to think through my thinking, I've got motion going in, which turns the gear, which moves the paper. There's also a decoding taking place between the paper and the reader, which eventually creates sound energy moving out. We also have the motion of the paper moving out, so we got some motion energy leaving. And so this is inputs, processes, and outputs. Remember the color, I'm showing the black just representing the matter and then that red representing the energy.
So we now reviewed 5 systems concepts. We reviewed emergence, boundaries, structure, purpose, input, transformation, and output. That completes this lecture. In the next lecture, we will introduce you to additional systems principles and to help you apply it to communication contexts.